JD and the other 3 AIs have controlled all information on every aspect of global society: economics, politics, law, morals, and culture. The war economy is no exception. In the shadow of the system and its complete control over the world, Big Boss isn't allowed to live or die. He's trapped for eternity in a brain-dead prison. To bind himself to his friend, to ensure his rule over the world, Zero transformed Big Boss into an icon, neither living nor dead.
Sounds almost like a religion.
We are formless. We are the very discipline and morality that Americans invoke so often. How can anyone hope to eliminate us? As long as this nation exists, so will we.
You're being silly. What we propose to do is not to control content, but to create context.
The basic idea was that we could never win an election.
Billions spent on new weapons in order to humanely murder other humans.
But maybe you could actually unilaterally change the world without having to constantly convince people and beg people and plead with people who are never going to agree with you through technological means. And this is where I think technology is this incredible alternative to politics.
Who else could wade through the sea of garbage you people produce, retrieve valuable truths, and even interpret their meaning for later generations?
That's what it means to create context.
We allow the enforcement of rules that government ought to enforce. And by the way, my experience is they want to enforce, or at the very least know they need to enforce.
You know, there are elections that come and go. Some elections are, you know, important, some are not. But this one, this one really matters. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you.
The Patriots. It's a name that, for fans of Metal Gear Solid, instantly conjures to mind an AI-driven near-future sci-fi dystopia. But as we'll find out, ironically, the longer time passes since Hideo Kojima games like Sons of Liberty or Guns of the Patriots, the less they feel in any way cartoonish or even all that fanciful. Governance by AI, nearing the intelligence of human beings, wars by AI fought between drones and robots, and most of all, a creeping illiberal techno-totalitarian f***ism, with dreams to pervade all aspects of modern life, a life that may soon become so unreal and digitally mediated as to become simply simulation. All these elements, pulled right out of Metal Gear Solid, are routinely becoming the stuff not of science fiction, but the daily news. And behind these events, driving them in some respects, are 3 men. I give you the new Patriots. There's another name beginning with a P, taken from a famous fictional world, that strikes dread into the hearts of many who hear it. That name is Palantir. It's taken from Lord of the Rings. It's the biggest, scariest military and commercial AI and tech company on Earth. Its co-founder, the techno-fascist Alexander C. Karp, has just published a sort of manifesto to the general public, called, in a nod to Plato and the notion that Plato embodies of the West, the Technological Republic. And for a diehard Metal Gear fan and self-appointed expert like me, the Technological Republic is nothing short of horrifying. But before we get into it, who are these new Patriots? After all, in games like Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, the Patriots go very far to keep their true identities a secret. We've already done a video on the True Life Wiseman's Committee dating back essentially to World War II. But who are these new 21st century philosophers who seek to rule our society from the shadows, or in some cases even from the spotlight? Well, we can name at least three of them. They are Alexander C. Karp, Peter Thiel, and Elon Musk. These three seek to exploit advances in AI to transform American society. Recent advances, such as large language models, which, in Karp's own words, quote, point for the first time in history to the possibility of general artificial intelligence. That is, a computing intellect that could rival, when it comes to abstract reasoning and problem solving, that of the human mind. These three men, friends and associates, much like the original wise men in the mid-20th century were, hold an enormous amount of power, much like they did. And much more than the wise men even, these new patriots seek to use technology as leverage to maintain control, to sustain their management of the modern liberal democracy. We are witnessing a backlash against liberalism not seen since the 1930s. In this respect, they resemble less the wise men and more the Nazis or the Soviet Union. Though ostensibly libertarian, all three of the new patriots, Musk, Thiel, and Karp, espouse something a lot closer to nationalism. In the MGS series, the specters of nationalism and totalitarianism haunts the social systems which came after. In MGS 4, for instance, we play through a nazified near future, you could say, where the military, government, and civil society are all run by a network of AIs, a modern technological republic, in Karp's phrasing, which predicates most of its control on its military and technological hard power and its so-called war economy. This is more or less precisely the near future that Karp seeks to bring about, according to his neo-nationalist manifesto, the Technological Republic. And these people are not waiting around for our permission to transform society, or essentially attempt to enslave us to their control over, in MGS fashion, the flow of digital information. Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter is of course a part of that. Here's what Peter Thiel openly admitted on this point, courtesy of A More Perfect Union.
The basic idea was that we could never win an election on getting certain things because we were in such a small minority. But maybe you could actually unilaterally change the world without having to constantly convince people and beg people and plead with people who are never going to agree with you through technological means. And this is where I think technology is this incredible alternative to politics.
Whether it's Thiel's and Karp's company Palantir or Elon Musk's notorious Department of Government Efficiency, we are seeing a massive power grab by these men, by this generation of philosophers. It's a whole new world order, a so-called broligarchy, being yet again created for us without us, outside any democratic means to stop. The messy, sad, yet complex history of America, as the nation founded by engineers and scientists, yet also the first nationalists in history, the history that we see exposed by Hideo Kojima's MGS series, is repeating. And for an MGS head like myself, it's often like watching a train wreck playing out in slow motion. What I see people often forget about MGS and the Patriots is that the Patriots were not just shorthand for the US government. They were formed, first and foremost, by individuals. They formed, remember, as the Philosophers, that early 20th century group in the series made up of the most powerful and influential individuals from, MGS 3 tells us, three societies, the US, China, and the Soviet Union. This alliance between the three of them sort of split apart just after World War II. And today we are again seeing an MGS Philosophers-style triumvirate, as this recent cover of Foreign Affairs illustrates, a world split into three spheres of influence, again as in Metal Gear, between the US, China, and Russia.
After that, the organization began to run out of control, and the Wise Men's Committee degenerated into a mere shell of its former self. The philosophers of today have no sense of good or evil. Their influence extends to countries and organizations involved in every aspect of every war. They have become war itself.
People like Musk, Thiel, and Karp seek to not just continue getting rich by steering government policy, but to merge their personal or professional power as billionaires and tech moguls with America's military hard power and its political prerogatives, with agenda items such as support for or mass surveillance to hunt down terrorists and illegal immigrants, or help insurance companies deny coverage. In the Tech Republic, which Karp explains, summarizes his and Thiel's company Palantir's whole philosophy. Palantir being, I'll tell you, the company that, for instance, gave algorithms for ID tagging, ranking, and then tracking down targets. Even though he doesn't say so, Karp essentially argues for a return to the Italian and German style of the 1930s in all but name, even though he would prefer to say that he's seeking a return to the Manhattan Project, arguing not that Pearl Harbor, but that the this time justify, in this instance, ending Silicon Valley's publicly pronounced aversion to military contract work. Karp sees himself as a founding father-level scientist and engineer with an Oppenheimer Manhattan Project-style mission. As the only one of the three to pen a full-blown manifesto, Karp is the most transparent about his goals for this coming age of neo-fascism. Well, okay, perhaps next to the saluting Elon Musk, the second most transparent. Make no mistake, these three men are just like the wise men before them, or their analogs in MGS, the self-styled philosophers and patriots. Consider Thiel and Musk's obsession with the letter X. To quote Thiel's 2007 treatise, The Straussian Moment, the same essay where he tells us not justified giving up civil rights, written in just pretentious enough purple prose, quote, "In the place of human nature, the philosopher Locke leaves us with an unknowable X. The human X may have certain wants and preferences, but nobody is in an authoritative position from which to challenge those desires. The general principle of the unknowability of the human X would encourage a gradual expansion over time of the field of human freedom," end quote. It's all utter nonsense, of course. But that's the delusions of grandeur that these people suffer under. They really do see themselves as the philosopher kings of Plato's Republic, as evinced by the title of the book, The Technological Republic. In case the comparison to the real-world Wise Men's Committee and the Patriots from MGS wasn't clear enough, consider this. Walter Isaacson, the same man who literally wrote the book on the Wise Men, has, following 2011's Steve Jobs, recently penned a similarly fawning and obsequious biography of Elon Musk and given front cover praise for Karp's Technological Republic. In that book, The Technological Republic, Karp calls for a return to the good old days when the U.S. military, U.S. government, and U.S. scientific and engineering communities were all integrated as part of one great big arsenal of democracy. I'll probably be doing a follow-up video all about Karp and Thiel's Palantir specifically, and more about Karp's book. But for now, hopefully I've already made clear why I say these three men, Thiel, Musk, and Karp, are our new patriots, or at least would like to be. The three men who threaten the most to unknowingly turn MGS's AI-powered sci-fi dystopia into reality. Until next time, boss.